Have you ever lain still in the dark, back turned to your partner? Not because you stopped loving them, but because it hurt. Or maybe because deep down, you felt like you no longer had the right to want. I know that sounds deeply personal, hard to say out loud, but also familiar. One of my patients, Eleanor, 68, once whispered through tears, "I still want to be close to him, Sam, but I feel ashamed, and it hurts. I'm Dr. Sam Wells, and today, I'm not here with a prescription or textbook advice. I'm here as someone who has listened to hundreds of women like Eleanor. And maybe, like you, we're going to talk about something often avoided, but very real. Intimacy after 60, especially when your body starts saying no, even though your heart keeps whispering yes. Have you ever felt like that? A bit sad, a bit lonely, and unsure who to ask? Then stay with me. This video is for you. And if you believe conversations like this matter, that nothing is ever too late or too awkward, share this video and subscribe to Wellness Unfolds. Because here, we speak with truth, with kindness, and with the belief that you still deserve to love fully. 1. Feeling invisible isn't the end. Have you ever walked through a room and realized no one really sees you? Not because they're turning away, but because they no longer look at you like they used to. No more lingering glances, no more small, caring questions, no more absent-minded touches. You're still there, vibrant, full of memories and emotions, yet somehow fading into the background of a life you once filled with laughter. I once heard a 74-year-old woman say in a soft voice, "I miss feeling seen, not as a mother or a grandmother, but as me." That pain doesn't have a clear name. It doesn't show up all at once. It settles in slowly, day by day, as if time itself is peeling away the layers of connection you thought would always be there. After 60, many women feel like they're stepping off the stage of life. Your body changes, hormones shift, your role in the family evolves, the kids grow up, your partner grows quiet or sometimes is no longer there. The world's attention, both inside and outside your home, begins to fade. That feeling of invisibility doesn't crash in loudly. It settles like nighttime mist. Soft, but enough to make you feel lost. I want you to know that feeling is real, and you're not the only one who's been through it. But I also want to tell you something more important. Feeling invisible does not mean you've ended. It doesn't mean you're no longer worthy of being loved, seen, or touched with tenderness and respect. We live in a world that's strange about aging. Youth is worshipped. People act like life's value is tied to how smooth your skin is or how thick your hair stays. But you and I both know, life isn't a contest to stay young. Life is about feeling, and that doesn't age. Feeling invisible can make you question your worth. It can make you wonder, does anyone still want to hear me? To touch me? And when you start believing the answer is no, you withdraw. You close yourself off. Not because you don't need connection, but because you've forgotten that you're worthy of being needed. I remember a patient of mine, Nancy, 70, widowed for nearly a decade. She lived alone, tended her garden, read her books, and hid a silence that no one saw. During one of our checkups, I gently asked if there was anything she wanted to share. She hesitated, then said, "I think I forgot what it feels like to have someone really look into my eyes and actually see me." That moment was quiet, but not empty. It held the truth of millions of women who feel like they've passed their moment of being seen. But that's a painful misunderstanding, because what I've learned over the years is this: the ones who believe they've become invisible are often the ones holding the most beautiful, powerful, and tender stories. You don't need to be young again to be seen. What you need is someone who sees past the wrinkles, past the age, and recognizes the life still glowing in your eyes. And you can be that person too. The one who sees yourself not through the lens of time, but with love and forgiveness. If you feel invisible, let me say this to you. You are not alone, and this isn't the end. It's a gentle knock on your heart, reminding you it's time to step out from the shadow of everything you thought you lost. It's time to see yourself again, and to let the world see you. Start with something simple. Look in the mirror and hold your gaze a little longer. Ask yourself, what do I need today? What do I miss the most? And if you can, speak it out loud to someone. It doesn't have to be a confession. Just something true, something real. Love, intimacy, and the longing to be seen. These have no expiration date. They don't vanish when hair turns silver or skin softens. They just need to be named again, rekindled, and accepted as deeply human parts of you. You may have felt invisible, but you never lost your worth. And today, right now, you can begin, not from scratch, but from exactly where you are, with gentle courage, a small step, and the truth that you deserve to be seen. 2. Dryness and pain aren't the end. I want you to picture this. A woman sitting beside the man she's shared over 40 years of life with. They still have breakfast together, take evening walks, sometimes brush hands while watching the news, but it's been a long time since she let him touch her completely. Not because the love is gone, But because her body has changed, every touch now comes with hesitation and pain. That story is familiar to me. It's the story of Eleanor, 68, one of hundreds of women I've met. She said, "I still love him. I still feel warm inside when he holds my hand. But every time we get close, my body aches in a way I can't control. I'm too scared to say it." And he has no idea. So many women don't speak up because they think they're the only one, because they're ashamed, because they assume maybe this is the end. But you know what? That's not true. And what I want to tell you today is this: dryness, discomfort during intimacy, while common, is not the end of closeness. It's your body's gentle way of saying it needs a new approach, and your body deserves care, not silence or shame. After menopause, estrogen levels drop. That's completely natural. But estrogen is the hormone that keeps vaginal tissues moist and elastic. Without it, the area becomes dry, thin, and more sensitive. What once felt natural now feels uncomfortable. I've met so many women who think they're broken. They pull away from intimacy, not because they've stopped loving, but because they don't know there are ways to feel safe and comfortable again. The first thing I want you to know is there are gentle, effective solutions, and they're nothing to be ashamed of. Non-hormonal lubricants are one of them. Many products today are made especially for women your age. Soothing, pH, balanced, designed to hydrate sensitive tissue. Even a small change can make a big difference in how you feel and how you connect. I remember another patient, Martha. She was 72, living with her husband and 2 little dogs in a coastal town. She came to my clinic not for dryness, but for insomnia, anxiety, and a sadness she couldn't name. It wasn't until our second talk that she quietly said, "Sam, I feel like I'm not a woman anymore. I don't look forward to nights." We explored it together, and she began using a non-hormonal lubricant, along with gentle pelvic floor exercises. 2 months later, she came back smiling. "I think I'm rediscovering a part of me I thought was lost." Martha's story isn't magic. It's simply what happens when you dare to speak, to explore, and to try something new for yourself. Besides lubricants, there's more you can do. Stay hydrated. Moisturize your body, inside and out. Allow yourself more time for build-up and emotional closeness. Let go of goals and focus instead on connection and how your body feels in the moment. And this is key. Talk to your partner, if you have one, to a doctor who listens without judgment. Silence leaves your partner confused and you feeling alone. They may think you've stopped loving them. You may think they don't understand you, but one honest conversation, even if it's hard, can open a whole new chapter between you. And please know this, what you're experiencing is not the end of femininity. It's part of a natural journey, and you have every right to care for your body with the same gentleness you've shown others for years. If there's one thing I hope you remember, it's this: dryness is not the end of intimacy. It's the beginning of a new approach, one that's kinder to your body, that embraces the changes while still craving connection. You're not alone, and you're not wrong for wanting to be loved in ways your body today can receive. Be gentle, be honest, and trust this truth. Comfort and closeness are still there, if you're willing to reach for them and speak up. 3. Desire doesn't retire. One of the things I hear most often from women over 60 is this question: "Dr. Sam, is it strange that I still want?" It almost always comes with a sheepish smile or a shy glance, like they're admitting something they're not supposed to say. And I always look them in the eye and say, no, not strange at all. In fact, it's a beautiful sign. It means you're still alive. We live in a world that's made far too many women believe that after menopause, all longing for intimacy, closeness, or emotional connection should be tucked away. Society teaches you that past a certain age, you're supposed to become graceful, wise, reserved, and quietly let go of the colorful, tender, and passionate parts of your soul. But let me say this clearly. With over 20 years of experience in healthcare, desire doesn't retire. It has no age. It needs no apology. Science tells us that the brain, not any other part, is the most powerful sexual organ. Images, emotions, memories, dreams, they're all stored and awakened up here. And if your brain still reacts to a loving look, a familiar scent, a warm word, then you're still longing to live, not just exist. I once met Margaret, 72, a retired teacher. She told me she'd been dreaming of herself lately, not as a young woman, but as she is now, silver hair, wise eyes, but still longing to hold someone, to be touched, to whisper in candlelight. She said, "I still want to be wanted." And then she paused, waiting to see if that was something to be ashamed of. I held her hand, and I want to do the same for you now, symbolically to say, no one has the right to shame you for wanting closeness. Desire isn't indecent or out of control, like people once made you believe. It's a deeply human need, a need to connect, to be touched, to be seen and felt, and at every stage of life. That is valid. Our bodies change, but our longing doesn't vanish. We just learn to listen differently. Maybe the intensity you felt at 30 has softened, but now, a warm hand on yours, a lingering look, a long hug that makes you feel safe, that's desire. 2. It speaks a new language, quieter, deeper, more tender. I know some women have been through loss, pain, or have simply been alone for so long they think that part of them is gone. But it's not. It's sleeping, waiting to be awakened by kindness, trust, or the courage to love yourself once again. Here's something else I want to stress. There is no age where you're supposed to turn off your feelings. In fact, studies show that women between 60 and 80 can experience intimacy just as deeply, sometimes even more, than when they were younger. Because now, there's no pressure to prove anything, no worry about appearances, no playing a role, just you and your truth. If you're reading this and something stirs inside, a memory, a soft ache, a long, buried wish, please don't push it away. Let it live. You don't have to act on it. You don't have to change anything. Just recognize it. Accept it and see it as a living part of you. Maybe you're alone. Maybe you're in a relationship that's grown quiet. Or maybe you're unsure about starting something new. Wherever you are, I want you to remember this. You have never lost your worth, and the desire within you has never needed permission to exist. Desire doesn't retire. It just needs to be seen through new eyes. Eyes that are gentle, honest, and full of love. And the first person who can look at you that way is you. 4. Hygiene is self. Love in action. Imagine this. You're setting the table for a special dinner. Candles are lit. Music is playing. Your favorite dish is ready. But you wouldn't serve that meal on a plate that wasn't fully cleaned, would you? Not because you're fussy, but because you understand that cleanliness is a form of respect. For the food, for your guest, and for yourself. Intimacy, especially oral intimacy, is no different. It's not just emotional. It's also a physical interaction. And when you take care of your hygiene, you're not just protecting your health, you're practicing a deep form of self-respect. I once met Joanne, 74. She didn't have the kind of sex people often imagine. No intercourse, no movie, like Passion, but she and her companion shared quiet, tender moments, kisses, cuddles, and occasionally, oral intimacy. Then she started noticing odd symptoms, mild itching, discomfort, and sometimes UTIs. She assumed it was aging or weakness. But during a checkup, her doctor asked one simple question. Do you and your partner engage in oral intimacy? Joanne paused, then nodded. And for the first time, she heard that even the mouth of someone you love deeply can carry bacteria that lead to infection if hygiene isn't handled properly. We're never taught this, not in school, not in medical checkups, and certainly not in everyday conversations. But it's a real part of life for many, especially after 65, when immune response slows and sensitive areas become more vulnerable. So what can you do? You don't have to turn every moment of intimacy into a medical procedure, but you can, and should, create a gentle, healthy hygiene routine. One of the easiest steps is simply rinsing your mouth before oral intimacy with clean water or alcohol. Free mouthwash. It reduces oral bacteria, especially if you or your partner recently ate, took medication, or smoked. People often skip this because it seems unromantic. But think of it this way. Safety is the longest, lasting romance. When you feel safe, you can relax. And when you're relaxed, intimacy becomes healing, not stressful. Next, care for the vaginal area using mild, pH, balanced products. Avoid harsh soaps, strong scents, or high, foam cleansers. They may feel fresh but strip away the natural protective layer, leading to irritation, dryness, or infections. Keep the area dry, especially after using the restroom, bathing, or being intimate. Use a soft towel, pat gently, wear cotton underwear, not too tight, and change it often. If you deal with light urinary leakage, very common at a certain age, staying clean and changing regularly is crucial. Don't forget about dentures. If you or your partner wears them, make sure they're thoroughly cleaned and removed before intimacy. Bacteria can hide in tiny crevices and transfer to very sensitive areas. I know some of this might feel awkward or uncomfortable to talk about, but from my experience, I can say those who ask, who take charge of their self-care, live longer, healthier, and happier. Personal hygiene isn't a chore, it's a love note to yourself. A way of saying, I deserve to be protected. I deserve to be seen, touched, and loved safely. And when you show yourself love through small acts, others learn how to love you that way too. I'm not saying all problems disappear with hand washing or mouth rinsing, but I believe that when you begin to look at your body with kindness instead of criticism, everything changes. From physical comfort to deep self-confidence. If you're entering a new season of intimacy or want to rekindle something long asleep, start with something small. Clean your space of love, not just outside, but inside too. Because hygiene isn't just about staying healthy, it's a quiet message you send yourself each day. I'm still here. I still matter. If this message brings you even a little peace, take a second to hit like, subscribe, and share it with a woman you care about. We deserve conversations like this, without shame, without silence, just truth, understanding, and support. 5. STIs don't care that you're 70. I'll never forget the day a 67-year-old patient sat across from me, hands clenched, eyes avoiding mine. She whispered, "I was just diagnosed with herpes. I don't understand." Sam, at my age, that mix of shock and shame isn't unique. Many older women still believe STIs are a young person's problem, a wild phase issue. And that belief, combined with long-term silence, makes them vulnerable without even knowing it. Here's the truth. STIs don't care how old you are. They don't retire. They don't disappear just because you're done having babies. In fact, STI rates among seniors have been rising, partly because many don't think they're still at risk. One of the most common misconceptions is, "I can't get pregnant, so I don't need condoms." Sounds logical, but dangerously overlooks a key fact. No pregnancy risk doesn't mean no infection risk. Herpes, HPV, syphilis, gonorrhea, even HIV, they can all be transmitted orally. No penetration required. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it to give you power. Power to know, understand, and protect yourself. Because the only thing scarier than disease is not knowing you're at risk. Maybe you're entering a new relationship after years of widowhood or divorce. Maybe you've reconnected with an old flame. Or maybe you're simply exploring intimacy again after a long pause. Whatever your situation, I want you to treat sexual health as part of your overall health. There's nothing shameful about it, and it deserves the same care you give your heart, your bones, or your blood pressure. One very basic step that many skip is routine testing. Not monthly, not obsessively, but if you have a new partner, even one you trust, ask, "When was your last STI test?" You might think that sounds rude, but let me ask you this. What's more rude, a brave question, or a disease you carry for life because you stayed silent? If you feel shy asking, I get it, but you should also know, many men, especially older ones, actually feel relieved when you bring it up. They're unsure too, and often don't know how to start the conversation. And please know this, protection still matters, even with oral intimacy. There are now ultra-thin, scent-free condoms and dental dams, small but effective barriers. These tools don't kill romance. On the contrary, when you feel safe, intimacy becomes deeper and more relaxed. Remember, being careful isn't being suspicious. It's a form of love. You don't use a condom because you distrust someone. You use it because your health is precious, and anyone who truly cares will respect that choice. Beyond serious infections, there's something often overlooked. Disruptions in the vaginal microbiome after oral intimacy can lead to itching, burning, or yeast infections. They might seem small but can cause days of discomfort, self-doubt, and distance from intimacy. That's why staying clean, keeping the area dry, and noticing any changes afterward should become part of your regular self-care. Let me tell you a quick story. Linda, a 67-year-old widow, once told me after being diagnosed with HSV, "Sam, what hurts the most isn't the illness. It's feeling stupid, like I should have known better. But no one ever told me." I held her hand and said, "Linda, you're not stupid. You were never given the right information. Not at the right time, not in the right way. Maybe no one ever said these things to you either. So let me be the first. You have the right to know, the right to ask, the right to love, safely, boldly, and without shame. And if you're looking for a reason to start caring for your sexual health again, remember this, you're not doing it just for yourself. You're doing it to keep loving and being loved in a way that's full, lasting, and real, not out of fear, but with the clarity and grace of someone who's lived through a lot and still chooses to show up fully for every moment. 6. Rediscovering intimacy in a new way. Try to remember a moment like this. You and your partner sitting quietly on the couch. No words, just a soft glance, a gentle touch of hands, palm to palm. Warmth meeting warmth. No music, no phones, no plans, just presence. And in that stillness, something very real begins to stir. Something deep and silent, like seeing yourself reflected in their eyes for the first time in years. That's intimacy, the kind many people forget or never had a name for. When most people think of closeness, they picture physical intimacy. But to me, and to many I've cared for, true intimacy goes far beyond that. It's not about a specific act. It's a feeling. I am seen. I am touched. I am wanted, not because I'm doing anything, but simply because I'm me. I once met Mr. and Mrs. Sanders, married for over 50 years. They didn't come to the clinic for a health problem. Mrs. Sanders simply said, "I don't feel connected to him anymore." When I asked her husband about it, he looked confused, but I still hug her every night, he said. She gently replied, yes, but you don't really look at me anymore. That line rang in me and in him, because sometimes, after all the years together, people forget how to truly stay with each other. Heart to heart, eye to eye, breath to breath, not just out of habit. So I want you to know, if your body has changed, if the old ways of being close feel difficult, you don't have to give up on connection. You just need to rediscover it with a new heart, in a new form, a long hand, hold, a hug that doesn't rush to let go, a head rested on a shoulder while watching TV, a kiss on the forehead before bed, a quiet question, how are you feeling today? Not asked for information, but as a way of staying inside the answer together. These gestures may seem small, but they fill spaces that even physical intimacy sometimes can't reach. When I say this to older patients, many cry, not out of sadness, but relief. They realize the things they thought had ended were only waiting to be renewed. And often, that renewal doesn't start with desire. It starts with courage. The courage to sit down together like it's the first date, to look again like old friends, to touch again like two people still in love. And for those of you living alone, please know this, you don't need a partner to feel closeness. There are so many forms of connection that nourish the feeling of being seen, being touched, being needed. A hug from your grandchild, a heartfelt talk with an old friend, a massage from a therapist who understands aging bodies, or even a quiet moment with yourself. Hand over heart, whispering, I'm here. One patient, Ruth, 69, had been alone for over 15 years. She once said, I thought the emotional part of me had died. But then one day, I was caring for an old sick cat. It curled into me, and I felt my heart soften. I cried because I realized I still need to be touched, to be trusted even by something so small. That story stayed with me. Because intimacy doesn't always need a name. It just needs to be felt. If you're in a relationship but haven't felt close in a long time, please don't give up too soon. Start a conversation, not to fix your sex life, but to say, we haven't really looked at each other in a while. Do you remember what that felt like? Or even simpler, I miss a hug. And if you're single, or you've lost your partner, you can still care for intimacy in your life. Join a gentle yoga group for seniors. Try a dance class. Practice mindful breathing to reconnect with your body. Massage your skin with oil every morning. Each of these is a way of saying, I'm still here, and I still deserve a connection. With the world and with myself, intimacy has no rules. It doesn't live in textbooks. It's the smile you wear when someone remembers you. It's leaving your hand on someone else's and not pulling away. It's feeling not alone, not because someone's in the room, but because someone's in your heart. Rediscovering intimacy isn't about going back to who you were at 20. It's about entering your 70s or 80s with a heart that's still open. And if you can still feel something stir when someone looks at you, or says something kind, or reaches out to touch you, then you're still alive, and still very worthy of love, in a new way, as the truest version of yourself. Right now, 7. No one taught you how to love at 70, but you can relearn yourself. I once asked a 72-year-old patient, do you still feel like a woman? She was quiet for a while. Then tears welled up as she nodded gently. I do, but I don't know if I'm allowed to feel that way anymore. That answer never left me. Because I understand so many women in their 60s, 70s, 80s still long to fully live out their feminine side, to feel soft, receptive, emotional, loving, and loved. But society never taught them how. They were raised to serve, to sacrifice, to endure. They learned how to be mothers, wives, caregivers. They were taught to carry, to yield, to stay silent. But now, with silver hair, grown children, and sometimes no partner, no one ever showed them. How do you come back to yourself now? If you feel like you've forgotten how to love, not just someone else, but yourself, please hear me. It's not your fault. No one taught you that. But the good news is, you can learn again. And this time, you'll learn with a heart that's seen much, with eyes that know what matters, and a soul that no longer needs to prove anything. Loving at 70 doesn't look like it did at 20. It doesn't need to burn hot or make big promises. It might start with making tea for yourself in the morning, wearing a soft blouse, dabbing cream on your cheeks, looking in the mirror and saying, hello, old friend, I'm still here. You don't need anyone to validate that you're lovable or worthy. That never went away. It was just covered by years, responsibilities, pain, and sometimes by losing yourself while caring for everyone else. One of my patients, Helen, 75, never married. She was a nurse who spent decades caring for others. When she retired, she said she felt empty. No one needed her. No one touched her. Not physically, not with their eyes, not with attention. I asked, have you ever tried caring for yourself the way you cared for everyone else? She smiled gently and said, I never thought I was worth that. So we started small. She walked each morning, bought a new lipstick, wrote in a journal at night. A year later, she came back and said, I don't feel lonely like I used to. Not because someone else showed up, but because I've learned to befriend myself. That story reminds me, loving at 70 doesn't need permission. It just needs a gentle return to self. Many feel shy about intimacy at this age. The body has changed. Skin is looser. The belly isn't flat. The knees ache. But none of that makes you less beautiful. In fact, there's a quiet beauty in a woman who dares to peel away everything the world once placed on her and return to her soft, truthful self. You can relearn how to touch your skin with affection, how to smile at a new wrinkle like reading a new chapter in your life's story, how to walk outside, lift your head, breathe deep and say, I am a woman, not the kind in ads or movies, but a real one, full of scars, wisdom, softness, and still so alive. And if you have a partner, invite them to learn with you, not by starting with sex. Start with a hug, a hand held longer than usual, a slow meal, a surprise note. Say things you once thought were too late to say. You might be surprised how love never truly grows old. It just waits to be awakened again. And if you're on your own, you can still love through the care of a garden, through poems that once made your heart flutter, through slow music, through writing down a dream you once tucked away. No one taught you how to love at 70, but maybe that's a gift, because now you get to define it for yourself. No rules, no pressure, no comparisons, and who knows? This time, you may love more fully, more deeply, not to be accepted, but because you've finally accepted yourself. That's the most beautiful lesson. And yes, you still have time to learn it. Wherever you are in your journey, please remember, the door to love never closed on you. It's just been waiting for you to step up and knock. 8. Oral hygiene. A gentle way to protect intimacy. You might be surprised to hear this from a general health doctor, but I'll say it directly. Your oral health has a direct impact on your intimate health, especially when oral intimacy is part of your relationship. I know this isn't the easiest topic to bring up, even in the clinic, where conversations are meant to be private and safe. Many women have never once been asked about the link between the mouth and the genital area. But once I begin to explain, they often realize why symptoms like itching, mild burning, or recurring irritation after intimacy keep showing up, even when there's no traditional intercourse involved. Let me explain it clearly and simply. Our mouth is home to billions of microorganisms. Not all are harmful, but if you have gum disease, cavities, or unclean dentures, these bacteria can travel during oral intimacy, and the vaginal area, especially in older women after menopause, becomes thinner, more sensitive, and less protected due to hormonal changes and pH imbalance. The result, a much higher risk of irritation, yeast infections, urinary tract infections, or even sexually transmitted infections. One of my patients, Joanne, 74, whom I've mentioned before, experienced exactly this. She and her long-time partner didn't have penetrative sex, just gentle moments of closeness. But after each encounter, she felt stinging, followed by itching and discomfort for days. No doctor had ever asked her about her intimacy, until I did. Do you and your partner engage in oral intimacy? I asked. She blushed and nodded. Does he rinse his mouth first? Does he smoke? Does he clean or remove his dentures? She said, we never thought of that. And I know there are so many like Joanne, not because they're careless, but because no one ever told them that keeping the mouth clean, removing and properly cleaning dentures, avoiding smoking, and using gentle mouthwash before intimacy isn't being too cautious. It's a way of loving properly. If you or your partner wears dentures, please make sure they're removed and thoroughly cleaned. Bacteria can hide in tiny crevices, and without regular hygiene, dentures can become a breeding ground for infection, causing germs. You don't need harsh chemicals or burning mouthwash, just warm salt water, a soft brush, and a little care. I also encourage couples to make mouth rinsing a shared habit as part of emotional foreplay. It's not just hygiene, it's a small act of kindness. When both of you do it together, it becomes less about medical rules and more about connection. A quiet way to say, I want to keep you safe. I want you to feel at ease with me. If your partner smokes, have the conversation, kindly but clearly. Smoking changes the biology of the mouth, increases harmful bacteria, reduces blood flow, and creates unpleasant odors. It doesn't just affect overall health, it raises the risk of infection during intimacy. This isn't about rules or control. It's two grown people choosing to care for each other. I understand many people are hesitant to speak up, afraid of killing the mood, or sounding overly strict, or hurting their partner's pride. But you know what? Kindness is never something to be ashamed of. Speaking up about what helps you feel safe and cared for is a form of mature, respectful love. A woman named Carla once told me she finally asked her partner to rinse his mouth before intimacy. He paused, smiled, and said, Thank you for trusting me enough to say that. I'll do it not because I have to, but because I never want to hurt you, not even a little. That moment stuck with me. It reminded me that the things we think are too awkward to say often become the bridge to deeper, gentler love. So today, I want you to remember something simple. Caring for your intimate health doesn't begin below the waist. It begins above, with the mouth, with your words, and with mutual understanding. You don't need to feel embarrassed about wanting a cleaner, safer experience. You don't need to apologize for setting boundaries around your body. All you need to know is this: cleanliness, gentleness, and care never ruin romance. They build trust. And from there, real intimacy blossoms. And if anyone ever made you feel wrong for wanting that, know this: that wasn't someone protecting you. That was someone you were still trying to protect. Oral hygiene may seem unrelated to love, but sometimes it's the smallest acts that build the strongest, healthiest, most fulfilling connections in aging, in intimacy, and in love that feels both clean and close. Not just love, but love done right. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to say you need to feel young again or prove you're still attractive, still whole. I'm here because I know, and I believe, that your worth hasn't faded, even if the world has started looking at you differently. All I hope is that you remember this: you are not invisible, you are not outdated, and most importantly, you are not wrong for still wanting to love, in body and in soul. The desire to be touched, to hold a hand, to whisper something sweet, to be looked at with warmth. These are not reserved for the young. They are deeply human needs, no matter how silver your hair, how soft your voice, or how your body has changed. If you've ever shrunk yourself out of fear of judgment, if you've ever felt ashamed for wanting something at the wrong time, then today, let me simply say this: it's time to lift your head and be honest with your heart. Start with something simple. Talk. Talk to yourself about the feelings you've hidden, the longings you've never allowed yourself to name. Talk to your partner, if you have one, about the loneliness you can't quite explain, the disconnection you've felt, the wish to be touched again, gently, respectfully, in a way that feels safe. Talk to a trusted doctor, someone who understands that sexual health, emotional health, and the need for closeness are completely valid parts of your life at any age. I know that telling the truth can make you feel exposed, vulnerable, but hear this: truth doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. Free from shame that was never yours to carry, free from outdated roles and rules, free from the silence that's lasted too long. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need the courage to ask the first question: what makes me feel alive again? And slowly, you'll begin finding your way back. Not to someone else, but to your own heart. I believe there are no limits to love, as long as it comes from honesty, respect, and the courage to be yourself. And if you're still reading this, chances are your heart is still listening, still beating, still very much alive. Don't miss it. Start gently. You don't need to be young again to be loved. You don't need a perfect body to be touched. What you need is to be seen, heard, and received as you are. A living, feeling, deserving human being. Remember, intimacy has no expiration date. It just asks that you be soft enough to step toward it, and honest enough not to ignore what's real inside you. So if something in your heart has been stirred today, I invite you to begin. Small, slow, but sincere. A conversation, a hand held, a look that doesn't turn away. You can begin again, and you are not alone. Let me know how you're feeling by leaving a comment. I still deserve love. That's not just a sentence, it's a living declaration. If this video touched something in you, please share it with the women you care about. And don't forget to subscribe to Wellness Unfolds on YouTube, where we keep having honest, tender, healing conversations, where nothing is ever too late to begin. I'm Dr. Sam Wells, and I believe gentleness is not just a memory. It's still alive and it's waiting for you in every breath you take. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll keep opening new doors to life, to love, and to you.